Okay, this verse video goes with chapter 9 from the Croy textbook. And we're going to actually read from my book, which is not my book, but the book that I am doing my dissertation on is actually Romans, so I spent a lot of time thinking about Romans. So we're going to read in Romans today. It's also one of a few times now, maybe the first time actually, that we've been out of kind of the Johannine literature, because we've done a lot from 1 John and the Gospel of John and Revelation. This jumps us to a totally different kind of writing, Paul's writing in Romans. So you get the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, and you get Acts. And then after Acts, you have Romans. And so we're going to read from toward the end, Romans 14:8. It's just a really beautiful verse, and so that's why I'm choosing it. It doesn't necessarily fit as well with your grammar as some of the other ones have been, but you can, I think, figure out some of the words here because they're very repetitive. If you need to pause it and find it, no problem. Just come back and join us after that. Okay, why don't you read after me? I'm reading in Romans chapter 14, beginning in verse 8. Eon te gar zomen, to kurio zomen. Eon te apotheneskomen, to kurio apotheneskamen. Eon te un zomen, eon te apotheneskomen, to kuriou esmen. A lot of things going on. Hopefully that very last word you recognize right away. Let's start at the beginning. The eon te, let's not worry about all of the grammar related to it, but it's creating a possibility, or maybe even something that's stronger than that, maybe a probability. So it's functioning a little bit oddly. Gar, which you should know now, is for, and it's post-positive. The eon te goes together like one word, and then the gar means force. For if, that would be a way we could start this. For if, and then the zomen, you're not going to know all of this, but let's look at a couple of things that may help you figure it out, and this is how you would work on a word that you don't know. If you cover your finger over the first two letters, then you get men on the end, and men is an ending you do recognize from your verbs. What person and number is men? Yeah, first person plural, so we. Okay, now cover over the men part and look at the first two letters. Zo. You don't know zo, but you do know this word, zoe. Right, so zoe, life, is the noun, and this is now the verb form, but along with we. So it's we live. So this is how it starts. It starts, for if we live, and then zomen to kurio. Repeat it. We live, to kurio, to whom? We live to the Lord. Right, do you see how that's in a dative case? For whom do we live? We live our lives. That would be the implied object. We live our lives directed to the Lord. Okay, then it repeats it. Eon te. If apotheneskomen. So if zomen was life, apotheneskomen is the opposite of this. If we die, to kurio apotheneskamen. We die to the Lord. And if you're looking at it really carefully, you may not have noticed this, but let me just point it out there. And point it out to say, if you didn't notice it and it's not stressing you out, don't worry. But if it is, the last word of that sentence, apotheneskamen, has an omicron, mem, epsilon, nun. That's what you know as the ending for the first person plural. All the other ones you've seen so far have an omen. They have it for a number of different reasons, but especially the other apotheneskomen has that long omega. It's because it's actually a form you don't know yet. It's a subjunctive. It's a possibility form. And here at the end of this sentence, it's just in the kind of present active indicative that you know. So that's why it's kind of playing with it a little bit. You don't know quite these forms, but I still think you can read some of this verse. So taking what we already know, let's read the rest of it. Un means then, and it's post-positive too. It says, then if zomen, we live, or eon te, or if apotheneskomen, we die, esmen. That's the key line. The next verb is the last word. as men to Kurio. We are. To Kurio is in the genitive, so we are of the Lord, or we belong to the Lord. Let me read the whole thing together so you can see it. You go back to the beginning, that first part. It says, for if we live to the Lord. And if we die to the Lord. So then, whether we live or we die, we are belonging to the Lord. Doesn't fit perfectly with your grammar, but I just think that's such a beautiful verse that Paul's written in Romans. Whether we live or whether we die, we belong to the Lord. Really lovely. So, hope you enjoy that.